Hello. Hi everyone, very good morning and welcome back to Crack Grade B. So today we are going to do the accounting of not-for-profit organizations. So under this we will be discussing few of the basics. Why we are discussing this particular topic? First of all, that is very important. So in various examinations over the years, this particular topic not specifically has been mentioned, but sometimes the questions have definitely been asked out of this particular topic, right? We are not just talking about EPFO, but we are talking about the other examinations as well. And in those examinations as well, few of the concepts of this particular topic has been asked, right? So not in very depth, but a brief understanding of this particular topic is must. Whenever the basics of accounting is written, it is considered under the basics of accounting, and that is why we have to understand this, right? So let's start with the not-for-profit organizations topic. Just so there are certain organizations which are set up for providing services to the members as well as the public in general, right? We all know that such kind of organizations, why do they exist? They exist for the welfare purpose. They do not have the intention of earning the profits, right? So earning profit was never on their agenda. See, obviously, while in the course of such welfare activities, they might earn some amount of profit. Okay? They might earn some amount of profit, but that is purely incidental. The purpose is not for them to earn the profits. Number one thing. Number two is, see, in this particular case, in one of the recently held examination, this a question was asked regarding legacies, right? So, what is the treatment of legacies, in which particular account it does go? So, such kind of small questions that are easy to handle can obviously be handled if you watch this particular lecture. Believe me, I have tried not to go into deep, because I understand that because that is not the requirement of our examination, correct? So first understand what are these not-for-profit organizations. They are charitable institutions, schools, religious organizations, trade unions, welfare societies, etc. Their main objective is not for the earning profit, but in order to do the welfare. With that particular thing, see, if they do not have the intention of doing profits, then what is the need for maintaining financial accounts? Okay? That question can be asked. But suppose you are a donor. Wait for a second. Suppose anyone, whosoever is giving the donations, they would obviously like to see that whether their amount is being used correctly or not. The amount that they have donated is being used for the correct purposes or not. So with those particular intentions, it is required for these particular organizations that they maintain correct books of accounts, not for not just for the filing purposes, but they have to be fully accountable towards their members, because they are receiving money from their members, money from their donors, right? So with that scenario, this is the intention of preparing the financial accounts for these kinds of organizations. See, these organizations, they do not undertake any business activity, and they are managed by the trustees. ठीक है? Trustees वाला concept, are you guys aware about trustee concept? Are you guys aware about trustee concept? See, what happens is, suppose there is an owner. There is some asset. There must be a owner for this particular asset. And owner wants that this asset yeah, this PDF will be provided in the course, right? So let's come back to the topic. So owner is what? Owner is having this particular asset. sometimes owner wants that this asset should be used for welfare purposes, right? Sometimes the owner wants that this asset should be used for welfare purposes. So what he does is he appoints a trustee. What is the work of this trustee? So this trustee, it maintains this asset for doing the welfare purposes. Okay? So the work of trustee is to maintain this particular asset as per the instructions of the owner. So these not-for-profit organizations, they do work as a trustee. Now next thing, see over here, they also have to maintain the proper accounts and prepare the financial statements which take the form of, see, there are three parts in the financial statements of not-for-profit organization. We will be looking at each of them separately. Number one is the receipt and payment account. Okay? Number two is the income and expenditure account. And finally, you will be having balance sheet at the year end. These are the three accounts, these are the three statements that are prepared in form of financial statements for a not-for-profit organization. So normally, obviously, the existence of not-for-profit organization is for welfare. They are not doing any kind of manufacture or any kind of trading. Normally they do not do, but sometimes there are some organizations that produce some goods, correct, produce some exquisite goods, and those goods are sold out in order to fund the welfare expenses. Like even in fashion industry, there is a show that happens, and the designer showcases their products over there, and whosoever purchases the dresses from that particular collection, it goes for the welfare of the poor children as well as the women, right? So such kind of things happen, but mostly in normal cases they do not do trading and they do not involve into sale of goods and services. That is why they may not have the credit transactions. Credit transactions means the transactions of sales. So with that particular thing in mind, they do not have to prepare the many books of accounts, like they do not have to prepare trading account, because they are not doing trading. Then what is the purpose of preparation of a trading account, right? So the funds, now where the funding comes for these particular organizations. Now in this, see, all of you have some idea about the not for profit organization. ठीक है, आप सभी को थोड़ा बहुत idea है, but what I want is that you please understand the specific terms that are being used into this particular chapter. So see, the funds which are raised by such organizations, the funds which are raised by such organizations, they are credited to the capital fund or called as the general fund. Now point which should be noted by you over here is that in normal businesses what we maintain is capital account. But यहाँ पे हम क्या maintain कर रहे हैं? Here we are maintaining capital fund or general fund, right? So major sources of income for these kinds of organization is subscriptions from their members, donations, right, grants, income from investments, etc. So suppose someone has given me 10 lakh rupees. So I might have used some amount, I might have invested some amounts. So now from that particular investment, whatever amount I am receiving, that is my income. Okay? That is going to be my income. So the main objective of keeping records in such organization is obviously to meet the statutory requirements as well as to see that where the funds are going. They have to keep a tab on utilization of fund as well. So that is why they prepare such kinds of accounts. Please take care of the incomes, that from where income comes. Subscription of members means suppose there is an NGO, right? Of that NGO you are a member. So every year an annual fees will be charged, right? Annual membership fees will be charged, and that membership fees for contributes towards the income of that particular NGO. Obviously that is used for welfare purposes. Now next is The main characteristics of such organizations. So such organizations, they are formed for providing the services to the specific group or the public at large. These are organized as a trust or society. So their organization type, see, they can also take the form of a company, not for profit company. We have a provision for that as well. But in most of the cases, they are organized in form of trust under Trust Act or Societies Registration Act, right? So this is their organizational type. Next is, their affairs are usually managed by a managing or executive committee. Now their main sources of incomes are subscriptions, donations, legacies, grants in aid, income from investment. So in a previous examination, a question was asked regarding legacies. So what are these legacies? Legacies are when a person dies, right? When a person is dying and he has written his will, right? That okay, this particular amount should go, I have written into my will that this particular asset should go to this particular not-for-profit organization for furtherance of women and child, like that. So many of the times you might have seen in the movies as well. ठीक है, कोई भी अमीर इंसान होता है, वो अपनी will लिख के जाते हैं और उस will के हिसाब से वो प्रॉपर्टी जो है वो नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन यूज करेगी. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड एज द लेगेसीज. ठीक. नेक्स्ट, the funds raised by such organizations through various sources, they are credited to the capital fund or the general fund. We are going to see that what kinds of funds are credited to it. That is also an important aspect. The surplus which is generated in the form of excess of income over expenditure is not distributed among the members. So as we have already told that the purpose of existence of this particular organization is not profit. They are into welfare. So any amount of profit that they might be having, it will not be distributed among the members, whereas it will go to the capital fund. It will get added in the capital fund. So this is the number on which you should call, right? And you can also write the mail onto this. Let's go back and talk about it. So the not-for-profit organizations, they are also required to prepare the financial statements, and financial statements are of three types: receipt and payment, income and expenditure, and balance sheet. Fine. Now let's talk about the receipt and payment account. Very, very important. I have not made it lengthy. I have just kept it to the point. Yes, it will be. See, normally in case of, suppose in my last to last lecture when we were doing financial statements, there we have seen that for a normal entity, we prepare a trading and P&L and then balance sheet, right? So I have shown you that whenever we find out capital account balance, जब भी हम capital account balance find करते हैं, तब हम क्या करते हैं? Capital account plus profit, right, less drawings. I have shown you this particular calculation for a normal entity, right? So obviously if you have not incurred a profit and you have incurred a loss, then you will deduct the loss. Whatever is your financial result, that will be deducted. So similarly over here also, under your capital fund, ठीक, in case of a not-for-profit organization, capital fund में you will add the profit whenever profit is happening, and you will deduct the loss if the loss is happening. Okay, now let's talk about receipt and payment account. So for not-for-profit organizations, you do not prepare trading accounts. Now I will not repeat not-for-profit, I will directly say NPO. ठीक है? So in NPOs, in case of NPOs, receipt and payment account is prepared in place of trading account, right? So this receipt and payment account you can you can think about it as similar as cash book, right? So in cash book we have a debit side, we have a credit side, right? Whatever amount we have received in cash, that will be debited, and whatever amount has went out in form of expense, that will be credited, right? No one is going to ask you ki kya debit hoga kya credit hoga, but you should remember this. Now this is a cash book. It is a summary of cash and bank transactions under various heads, right? So under receipts and payments account, all the receipts are written which have been done in cash or bank, and all the payments are written whatever you might have made in cash or bank. Okay? Now there are few things that you should note. What are those few things? So receipt and payment account, they give summarized picture of various receipts and payments irrespective of whether they are for current period, previous period or succeeding period. खर्चा चाहे इस साल का हो, पिछले साल का हो या आने वाले साल का हो. Just like in your cash book, we do the entry. Whatever amount has gone out of your cash or bank in the current year, whether it is pertaining to previous year, current year or upcoming year. If you have paid it in cash in the current year, then it will be recorded into your receipts and payment account. I repeat myself, in a particular year, let's suppose in the year from April 23 to March 24, in this particular year, whatever amount has gone out of my cash or bank, I will record it into the receipts and payment account. Okay? I will not see whether the payment is for current year, previous year or for succeeding year. Number one thing, it is very important. Number two, whether they are of capital nature or revenue nature. No distinction. Whether you have purchased a building and whether you have purchased stock. See, obviously, as a not-for-profit organization, you would have been distributing the provisions like pulses, rice, right, flour, like that to the needy people. So whether you have purchased the stock of e-tables or you have purchased building, both kinds of transactions will appear into your receipts and payment account. ठीक है? खर्चा चाहे जैसा भी हो, कैपिटल नेचर का हो, रेवेन्यू नेचर का हो, whether it is for current year, previous year, etc., does not matter. If in the current year money has went out of my pocket, then that will be recorded under the receipts and payment account. Any receipts that I have received, ठीक है, any receipt, whether it is capital receipt, whether it is revenue receipt, चाहे मुझे बिल्डिंग की सेल से पैसा मिला हो, if I have sold a machinery or building and I have received the money, I will record it in receipts and payment. If I have received any contribution from member, I will record it into receipts and payments, right? Any legacy that I have received, I will record it into my receipts and payment. I hope now this is more than clear to all of you. Next thing is, obviously, non-cash items will not be recorded. Non-cash items, for example, depreciation. One more example, like your provisions. Provision for doubtful debts, provision for taxation, right? So such kind of provisions which have not been incurred in cash, but they are provisions. You have made them for the upcoming year or whenever the expense needs to be incurred. So they will not be reflected over here. Receipts and payment account में नहीं दिखाया जाएगा, because in receipts and payment account we will only show the transactions which are having impact on my cash, right? Cash or bank. I hope it is more than clear to you. Now, as we have understood the receipts and payment, we will be shifting to understanding about the income and expenditure account. What is income and expenditure account? So you can equate this income and expenditure account as P&L account. You can equate this income and expenditure account just like your P&L account. ठीक है? What are the characteristics of P&L account? So in P&L account, you record the transactions which are revenue in nature. Fine. You record the transactions which are just for the current period. Like that. ठीक है. So जो भी transaction आपका current period का होता है, you record only that. The revenue nature of transactions you record in the P&L account, and the similar thing we will be following over here. Apart from that, the accounts will be prepared on accrual basis. Now I'll give you an example. Suppose there is a person who works in my NPO or NGO, you can call it, right? So I have to pay the salary to that particular person. That person's yearly salary, that person's yearly salary is 1,20,000. ठीक है? Every month he is receiving 10,000 rupees. Now in this particular year, I have just paid him 1 lakh rupees. So what is the amount that is going to come into my receipts and payment account? In my receipts and payment account, I will just show 1 lakh rupees because that is the payment I have done, right? This is the payment I have done, and thus in receipts and payment account, just 1 lakh rupees will be shown. But into your income and expenditure account, you will show that yes, 1 lakh rupees is what has been paid, and plus 20,000 rupees are outstanding. And total for this particular year, 1,20,000 is the total salary expense. So this is what called as the total expense. It's fine. You can obviously ask me about these type of questions. I do not neglect them. So it's great. See, what you do is please write us a mail on info@crackgradeb.com. Okay? Write a mail and mention in that I have this particular query related to bond market, right? And write my name over there, and that query will be forwarded to me, and I will surely get back to you on the mail. It is fine. You any kind of doubts related thing, you can always mail to us on the web, the mail ID that we have. This is the mail ID. This is for everybody else as well. If you've got any doubt that you want to ask separately, info@crackgradeb.com. This is the mail ID. Please write the mail onto it along with your query, and please write my name as well over there. That means in the body section, that you want to talk to me onto that, or you want to refer this query to me, and that query will be forwarded to me. Okay, ठीक है? चलिए. So let's see, what we were talking about. We were talking about the accrual basis. So yes, income and expenditure account, see, receipts and payment, whatever payment you have done, that is the thing. But income and expenditure, in that you will record the total expense which is for the current year. Now one more thing I told you, that in receipts and payment, whatever payment you have done will be recorded completely. Right? Now see over here. Suppose this is the person who's having yearly salary of 1,20,000. In this particular case, suppose for the last 2 years you have not paid salary to him. So in this particular year you have paid the total amount. Okay? So 2,40,000 you paid. This salary is for 2 years, but because you have paid it into the current year, it will be recorded like this. Okay? After that, in the income and expenditure account, how much you are going to record? You are just going to record 1,20,000, which is for the current year. Receipts and payment, you have not paid the salary for 2 years, that is why you have recorded 2,40,000. But in the income and expenditure, you will just record the expense which is for current year. Okay, so this is how obviously this is not you have to solve, but I have told you with the example. Now the question can arise in your mind that what we will do with the remaining 1,20,000, where that will adjust. So remember, if last year you have not paid salary, then in the liability side there must be a thing called as the outstanding salary, right? This liability might be occurring into your balance sheet. So the remaining 1,20,000 will get settled with that particular outstanding salary. Okay? So this is what I wanted to explain. So please know the difference between the income and expenditure and receipts and payment. Anything that has been paid into the current year will get recorded in the receipts and payment, but in the income and expenditure, the expenses which are only for the current year, only those expenses will be recorded. Right, now let's see. It includes only revenue items, and the balances at the end represent surplus or deficit. So all the revenue items related to current period. Please remember, current period and revenue items, they will be shown in the income and expenditure account. Okay? It shows the net operating results in the form of surplus. So यहाँ हमें profit नहीं होता है, यहाँ हमें होता है surplus and deficit. So we have another name for profit called as the surplus or deficit. So if there is a surplus, it will be added in capital fund. If there is a deficit, then it will be deducted from your capital fund. Next is the income and expenditure account is prepared on accrual basis. I have already told you, with the help of receipts and payment account. Receipts and payment, all the cash transactions are recorded, but the transactions which have not been recorded, we have to record them. We have to seek the additional information, that what are the outstanding expenses, what are the prepaid expenses, what is depreciation, and in accordance with that, we are going to prepare our income and expenditure account. So in income and expenditure account, depreciation will also be there. Any kinds of provisions that you have made for current year, that will also be there. These were not there in the receipts and payment account, but they will definitely be there in the income and expenditure account. Okay? So this was all about the income and expenditure and receipts and payment. This much theory is enough for all the kinds of examination, because they are not going to ask you to prepare a statement. They just want to ask you the basics. Okay? Whether you are aware about the basics or not. Now let's talk about the balance sheet. So not-for-profit organizations, they prepare the balance sheet at the end of the year to know their financial position. Every enterprise which is into any kind of activity, they would like to know that what is their end result, right? So with that, we have capital fund or general fund in place of your capital, right? And whatever surplus or deficit of income and expenditure we get, we add it or deduct it from the capital fund, right? After that, there are some items like legacies, entrance fee, life membership fees. They go directly into the capital fund. See, why they go directly into the capital fund, I'll tell you. So entrance fees, this is taken one time. Now yearly membership fees, they go and form part of the income of NPO. But entrance fees like admission fees, they are taken just once. Hence they go into the capital fund. They are directly added into the capital fund. Please, there have been questions that made onto this particular part, right? So this is important. Life membership fees, it is given just one time. So this is also added to the capital fund. Now legacies. Legacies can be of different types, different natures, right? So legacies are when you are giving an asset or any particular income to the NPO for its welfare purposes, right? Legacies means when a deceased person has written in his will that this thing should be used by the NPO. So in that particular case, suppose legacy is for a specific purpose. Mostly these are for specific purposes. So they do not go into income and expenditure, they go into capital. So legacies that you might be receiving, they are added into the capital. So when they are received, they are written in the receipts account. ठीक है, पहली बार when you are receiving the legacies, they are written in the receipts account, and after that they directly go into the capital. Legacies, they are not entered into income and expenditure account. Fine. Now, besides the capital or general fund, there may be other funds created for specific purposes. Like suppose sometimes what happens is our donor has given you some amount, but for specific purpose, right? So donor has given you some amount to make a sports complex, so that the poor children or the other children who are not having the means to get the sports training, they can get that such particular training. So such funds, such some amounts, they are given with the specific purpose. And when any donation has a specific purpose attached to it, then they should be credited into a separate fund. See, if suppose I am here, I have given a donation of let's say 10,000 rupees, and I don't want anything is written, I do not have any conditions attached to it. So the NPO is free to take that into its income. NPO will take it into the income. But suppose if I have given 1 crore rupees and I want that a sports complex should be built out of this particular fund, then that is not the income of NPO, right? That is not the income of not-for-profit organization. It is a liability. You have to develop a total sports complex out of it. So you are going to show this particular amount as in your liability column by the name of building fund or sports fund. So they are shown separately in the liability side of the balance sheet. Now the crux of the topic is that whenever donations can be of two types. Number one is those which do not have any condition. कोई condition नहीं है. So let's write it. It will be better. So donations, they are of two types. One is without conditions, right? There is no condition. You can use it wherever you like. So in that particular case, such donations I can take to my income and expenditure account in form of my income, right? I can take that. But some donations are there which are with conditions. And in such cases, this is a liability on to you. You have to complete that work. Like if I have paid 1 crores to an NPO for developing a sports complex, now it is a liability on to that particular NGO. So they take it into the liability column. Right? They take it into the liability column. So with that, let's see the format of balance sheet. See, in the asset side, there is nothing different, nothing new. I hope you all are able to see this. Fixed assets, buildings, any additions, depreciation is deducted. Furniture, any additions are added and depreciation is deducted. In the current assets, you are having the normal current assets like cash in hand, cash at bank, subscriptions in arrears. Subscription in arrears means suppose some of your members might not have paid the subscription fees, so that is arrears, that is your asset, you have to collect it. Interest, insurance, if you have any prepaid expenses, that is your asset. building fund investments, sports fund investment. Now what is this? See, sports fund, the donation has come for the development in the sports sector. ठीक है, आपको एक sports complex develop करना है. So you will write that okay 1 crores have been received. Further, if 10 lakhs or receive हुए हैं, you will write it over here, right? After that, what is the amount? This is the amount you have received. Now out of this, how much amount you have invested? ठीक है, how much amount you have invested means out of 1 crore 10 lakhs, what is the expenditure you have done? How much construction of sports complex is already complete? So that you are going to show into the assets, right? Any interests, that will also be added. If your sports fund is obviously 1 crore 10 lakhs, if it is there in the bank is going to fetch me some interest. So that I also write it over here. If I have received a donation in kind, I have received a donation in kind, then that will also be reflected over here. If I have received any sorts of investments in the sports fund, suppose someone has gifted me a whole structure of a table tennis, right? Table tennis whole structure has been gifted, has been donated. So that I will also reflect. Any sports prizes that must have been awarded by you, any expenditure that you might have done, that will be deducted. And similarly, other expenses, your outstanding expenses, you are going to write in your liabilities. Similarly, you have a building fund. Building fund may similar. What is the amount of donations you have received in order to develop the buildings? Any further donations? Any income or interest that you might be receiving? Any donations in kind in form of investment that you must be receiving, right? And out of this particular fund, how much you have done, how much work you have done, that will be reflected over here. So out of that particular donation amount, आपने कितना develop कर लिया है, how much you have already developed, that will be shown in the asset side. And finally we have capital fund. Surplus or deficit, surplus will be added, deficits will be deducted. Surplus means the profit and deficit obviously the loss. Entrance fee, capitalized amount. So one time fees that you have charged from your members, that will be capitalized. Any legacies that that is there in the will of deceased person who has given to you, so that will also form part of your capital fund. ठीक है? So with that, we have completed the topic of not-for-profit organizations basics. Only this much is required, right? In my opinion, what if the NPO complete the stadium construction with the fund they have got? Will it be treated as liability or as an asset? See, so what happens is, suppose you have received 1 crore rupees for constructing the stadium, right? So this is your liability, whatever fund you have received. Now, corresponding to this particular fund, I am going to create an asset. That asset is what? This is my stadium. So 1 crore rupees total. So it has been balanced. Correct? Once it is constructed, suppose your asset has been constructed, 1 crore rupees you have taken and you have totally invested that particular amount. Now, if the operation of this remains into your hand, then you are going to reflect it into your balance sheet. And if operation goes to another entity, right? So you will take it off out of your balance sheet. So your work was to construct it, to give it for the welfare of poor children, right? If it is going to remain in your hands, in your operational hands, then obviously you have to reflect it into your balance sheet like that, that this was the amount that we have received and this is the asset that we have created, right? Once you have created such asset, all such amount will get transferred into the capital. Now it will start reflecting into your capital, otherwise it is totally balanced. ठीक है? So this is it that I wanted to discuss today. This is useful for anyone who's giving any kind of paper because that comes under the basics of accounting. Fine. So thank you so much for joining in, and I hope your issue is solved now, Shravan. Were you able to understand? Okay, fine. So this there is no hard and fast rule. The point is that whatever liability you have, you should be having a corresponding asset to that. Suppose 1 crore was provided to me, but my stadium was not complete. Till date, I have just incurred just 50 lakhs into the stadium. So the rest amount will be reflected into my cash जब तक पूरा complete नहीं हुआ. And as and when the stadium will complete, stadium will be start reflecting at 1 crore. ठीक है? Stadium will start reflecting at 1 crore. Now you have used this total fund. Total of 1 crore you have used. So there is nothing left in the funds. So the amount of 1 crore will go where? It will go into the capital fund. This 1 crore, as and when your stadium will get completed, it will shift to the capital fund. ठीक है? Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and if you did, then please do not forget to like this video. Have a good day.